3 minutes. That's all it takes for a complete stranger to learn more about your deepest insecurities than your closest friends know after 10 years. Not by hacking your phone, not by reading your messages, just by sitting across from you and listening to the things you don't realize you're saying. There's a man who spent 2 decades inside U government intelligence learning how to do exactly this. His name is Chase Hughes, and he's been called the #1 behavior expert in the world. But here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. He says you're doing it too, right now, broadcasting your childhood wounds, your hidden shame, your secret fears to everyone you meet, in your clothes, in your sentences, in the way you complain about traffic. And the people who know how to read those signals, they're not reading your body language. They're reading something much older, something that was installed in you before you turned 10 years old and has been running your life ever since. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a conversation the same way again. Because once you see this pattern, you cannot unsee it. And it starts with one question, a single question that if you keep it in your head, unlocks every person you'll ever meet. But before I give you that question, you need to understand why everything you've been told about reading people is wrong. Think about the last time you met someone and something felt off. You couldn't explain it. They smiled. They said the right things. They were polite. But somewhere in your stomach, a quiet alarm went off. Something doesn't add up here. Most people ignore that feeling, and most people pay for it. The bad business partner, the friend who drained you, the charming person who turned out to be something else entirely. Looking back, the signs were always there. You just didn't have the language to read them. Here's why. For decades, we've been sold the idea that reading people means watching body language. Crossed arms mean defensiveness. Touching the nose means lying. Eye direction reveals deception. Chase Hughes, the man literally ranked as the world's top body language expert, says that's the shallow end of the pool. Think about that. The person at the top of the body language world is telling you that body language tricks are not where the power is. Because gestures change. People learn to control their hands, their posture, their face. Poker players do it. Politicians do it. Liars do it. But there's something nobody can control. Something formed so early, buried so deep, that the person carrying it doesn't even know it exists. Every adult you've ever met, your boss, your partner, the stranger on the train, is running a program that was written when they were 8 or 9 years old, a survival program, and it leaks out of them constantly. Their need to impress you, that's the program. The way they handle an argument, the program. What they wear, what they brag about, what they complain about, all of it, the program. Hughes puts it in one devastating sentence. Every adult behavior is the product of childhood suffering and childhood reward. Suffering plus reward equals the person standing in front of you, which means when you're talking to an adult, you're never really talking to an adult. You're talking to the child they used to be, wearing a grown-up costume. And that child wants something from you, desperately. They've wanted it their whole life. The question is, do you know what it is? Here's an experiment you can run today. Sit in a coffee shop. Pick any conversation within earshot. Don't watch hands. Don't watch eyes. Just listen to what people choose to tell you about themselves. The details they volunteer when nobody asked. I manage a team of 40 people. We all went out together Thursday night, the whole group. I just know I'm going to mess up this presentation. When I was at university, I published a few papers on this. To most people, this is small talk, background noise. To someone trained like Hughes, this is a confession, because human beings have a strange compulsion. Within 3 to 5 minutes of meeting you, we start handing over the keys to our psychology. Not because we want to, because we can't help it. Every one of us walks around with a hole in our chest, a specific shape of hunger that was carved out in childhood. And in every single conversation, without realizing it, we hold that hole up to the other person and silently beg, "Fill this." Hughes discovered that this hunger comes in exactly 6 flavors, 6 social needs. Not food, not water, not shelter. These are the needs of the social animal, the things we need from other people to feel okay. And here's the unsettling part. You have one. Probably 2. They're driving your decisions right now. What you wore today, the last thing you posted online, the story you told at dinner last week. You think you chose those things. You didn't. The 8-year-old chose them. So what are the 6? Let's walk through them, and as we do, I want you to do something dangerous. I want you to look for yourself in this list, because I promise you, you're in here. The first hunger, Significance. Hughes hears something else entirely. He hears the alarm of a person who is terrified of being insignificant, of being small, of not mattering. Because here's the rule that changes everything: the louder the need, the deeper the wound underneath it. Our group. Everybody goes out together on Thursdays. We all get along. The acceptance driven person speaks in plural, always the tribe, always the group, always belonging. It sounds warm, healthy even. What's wrong with loving your people? Nothing, until you flip it over. Because if someone's entire identity is woven from membership, what's their nightmare? Exile, being cast out, rejected, left off the invite. The acceptance person isn't telling you they love their group. They're telling you they are haunted by the possibility of losing it. Somewhere, long ago, they felt what it was like to be on the outside of the circle looking in. They swore they'd never feel it again. And every we is a brick in the wall against that memory. The third hunger, approval. The approval-driven person has spent a lifetime mastering the art of extracting reassurance without ever asking for it. They seek permission, they seek validation, and they've learned to make you hand it over voluntarily. So the approval feels real. You thought you were comforting a friend. You were completing a transaction you never agreed to. The fourth hunger, intelligence. And the moment you know that, you know exactly what cuts them deepest. Being seen as foolish, being wrong in public, being dismissed as ordinary minded. Their childhood likely rewarded the brain and ignored the rest. So the brain became the entire identity. Question it, and you're not questioning an opinion, you're questioning whether they exist. The fifth hunger, pity. Maybe see a doctor, and they get quieter, colder, almost annoyed. Why? You were helping. No, you were erasing them. The pity-driven person is not asking you to fix the problem. They don't want the problem fixed. Hughes calls this the place where we make a lot of mistakes, because we hear complaining and think it's a request for solutions. It's not. It's a request for witness. They need you to understand how bad they've had it, what they've survived. They are narrating their hero's journey. And a hero's journey is worthless if no one acknowledges how dark the valley was. Every solution you offer shrinks the valley, shrinks the journey, shrinks them. The words they're starving for aren't, here's how to fix it. They're, that sounds genuinely hard. I don't know how you dealt with that. Say that and watch a person you've known for years suddenly feel, maybe for the first time, that you finally see them. The sixth hunger, strength. So the boy kept barking for 30 years, 40. And now he's a CEO or a father or the guy who cut you off in traffic, still barking at ghosts from a childhood nobody else can see. Six hungers: significance, acceptance, approval, intelligence, pity, strength. Every person carries one or two of them as their operating system, including you. And if you felt a small jolt of recognition reading one of these, that flicker of, oh no, congratulations. You just met the 8-year-old who's been driving your life. But knowing the six hungers is only the surface. Let me show you what this looks like when it's live, in the wild. Because reading about the hungers is one thing, watching them walk into a room is another. Imagine a dinner party, 8 people. You know almost no one. Most people walk into that room and feel anxiety. What do I say? Will they like me? You're going to walk in differently. You're going to walk in as the only person there who can see the wiring. To your left, a man is telling a story. And notice, he's been telling it for 4 minutes. It's about the time he turned around a failing department, how the executives still call him when things break, how the new hires fight to be on his team. His watch is enormous. His laugh arrives a half second before everyone else's, as if to lead it. 4 minutes in the room, and he's already handed you the file, significance, which means you also hold the other half of the file. The fear of being a nobody is sitting right behind those eyes. You didn't interrogate him, he volunteered it. They always volunteer it. Across the table, a woman keeps glancing at the host before she answers anything. When someone compliments her dish, she says, "Oh no, it's nothing. I probably overcooked it." and then waits, just a beat too long, waiting for the chorus of "No, it's wonderful." You recognize the fishing line now, approval, and you understand something everyone else at the table is missing. The worst thing you could do to her is agree with her self-criticism. The kindest thing you could do is reassure her once, warmly, genuinely, and then change the subject before she has to fish again. Near the end of the table, someone has mentioned their master's degree twice, unprompted, into conversations about, of all things, parking and dessert. You don't roll your eyes anymore. You can't. Because now you see the kid who was only ever praised for grades, who learned that being smart was the only currency that bought love in their house, intelligence. The hunger is 40 years old and still unfed. And then there's the quiet one, the man who hasn't claimed anything all night. No stories, no credentials, no complaints. He asks questions, real ones, and actually waits for the answers. His follow-up questions prove he listened to the first answer. Notice what your gut does around him. It settles. That's not an accident. That's your lower brain filing a rare report. Low mask thickness detected. The people who need the least from a room are the safest people in it. Now here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. While you were reading all of them, what were you doing? What story did you tell at that table? What did you make sure people knew about you before the main course arrived? Because somebody like Chase Hughes was at that dinner too. In theory, somebody like him is at every dinner. And in 3 minutes, your stories, your jokes, your humble brags, and your complaints handed them a complete map of your childhood. The hungers exist in everyone. The only question is, who in the room can read the menu? And there's a reason these needs exist at all, a reason they form in the first place. That reason is the most human thing there is. Let me ask you something strange. What are you hiding right now? Not from the police, not from your boss, from everyone. What's the thing about yourself you've quietly decided no one is allowed to fully see? Don't answer out loud. Just notice that something came to mind. That something has a name. Hughes calls it shame, not guilt. Guilt says, I did a bad thing. Shame is darker. Shame says, I am a bad thing. I need to hide it. And shame doesn't just sit there quietly. It creates a kind of mental pain, cognitive dissonance, a constant low-grade discomfort of being two things at once, who you are and who you're pretending to be. That discomfort is unbearable in front of other people. So the mind does something brilliant and tragic. It builds a mask, not a Halloween mask, a psychological one, a persona constructed piece by piece specifically to cover the shame underneath. And here's the number Hughes gives that should stop you cold. Mask. The one who responds to every conflict by going soft, rolling over, playing innocent, like a puppy showing its belly. Hughes names that one specifically, the innocence mask. I can't be attacked if I'm harmless. That's not a personality. That's armor shaped like a child. Even your own, yes, you have one. Even your own mask was built by a younger you, as protection against a pain you might not consciously remember. And here's the rule for reading them. The goal isn't to rip masks away. The goal is to be the only person in the room who knows they're there. Because here's what happens when you develop this sight. Hughes warns about it almost like a side effect on a medicine bottle. Actually do it. The school you went to, the house you lived in, the kid you were. That kid had 3 jobs, 3 problems to solve every single day, with a brain that was still under construction. Water. Basic survival. Imagine what gets burned into a nervous system when affection and survival are the same currency. We memorized these strategies before we could spell the word strategy, and then we never updated the software. So when Hughes looks at an adult, he's not really looking at an adult at all. He's watching a 9-year-old survival code running on 40-year-old hardware, especially in one specific moment. So the next time someone's reaction to a disagreement seems completely out of proportion, too much anger, too much retreat, too much panic, understand what you're actually witnessing. You're not in a conflict with them. You're in a conflict with their childhood. And their childhood always shows up armed. Now you can see the hungers. You can see the masks. You can see the triangle underneath it all. But Hughes looks for 2 more signals before he trusts anyone. And the first one you can spot from across an airport. Signal 1. Self-control. Hughes says this is one of the very first things he measures in a stranger, their degree of self-control. Why? Because self-control makes people predictable in a good way. A person who can govern themselves, their impulses, their habits, their reactions, is statistically more trustworthy. They've already proven they can override the animal inside them. And someone with visible self-control problems, Hughes doesn't write them off. He just adjusts. A little more caution, a little more distance, eyes open. He even has a brutal mirror question he gives his own clients. And I'm going to give it to you. Sit with this one. About you. Every day, whether you like it or not. Signal 2. The transactional test. That is a report filed by the most sophisticated surveillance system on Earth, translated into the only language it speaks. Every time you ignored a gut feeling and got burned, the system worked perfectly. You just didn't read the report. And now, the final twist. The thing Hughes teaches his highest level clients first. And what do they want me to notice? Asterisk. Think about how absurd that is. If you drive a Chevy truck and someone insists it's a Honda, you'd laugh. You know your truck. It's not a debate. Yet we know our cars better than we know ourselves, our faults, our hungers, our masks. And every gap in that self-knowledge is an open door for manipulators, for critics, for anyone willing to define you before you define yourself. So yes, use the question on others. Watch the hungers reveal themselves in 3 minutes. Spot the masks. Read the reports your stomach files. But first, tonight, point the question at the mirror.